woke up on day 6 with a spring in our step. Well, Michael and I did. The girls needed a little more sleep, but it gave me a chance to put the drone up on a beautiful morning. I'd pulled the car off the charger around midnight at about 85%. Since they were both open in the morning, I plugged in again, knowing we were going to do a lot of exploring and still need to get down to Missoula for our hotel that night. By the time everyone was awake, repacked, and checked out, it was almost 10 and the car was at 100%. This would come in handy later. But we were off in search of the Goat Lick Overlook, a place where the wildlife gathers to lick the natural salt formation, a suggestion from a hotel employee that would put us further into the park than we'd planned, but still sounded too good to miss. The mountain peaks around us were insane, and we were rocking out and having a blast until we heard a loud thud from the back of the car, as if something had been kicked up by oncoming traffic. Then the familiar alarm rang, saying our tire pressure was low and dropping fast. I couldn't believe it. Again, Michael quickly found a turnoff on a road with no traffic, and we got out to assess the damage. The rear driver's side this time, but it looked like it could be plugged. Michael got the plug kit out and compressor and got to work.
It's real nice.
What's that?
It's real, like it's stuck on the side of an interstate. But...
Yeah. Is that it? I don't know which way is worse. Ellie entertained Joan while I tried to make a plan, but this time we were out of cell range. If the plug didn't hold, things were going to get a lot more complex. A look at our route showed that we only had a few more miles to the Goat Lick Overlook. If we could make it there, at least there would be restrooms and other people. That seemed like a safe first step. So as soon as the tire was holding pressure, we jumped in and cautiously made our way to the outlook. At least we'd see something we planned on.
It'd be awesome if it holds it all the way there. We could try filling it up. See if it holds.
40.
It's been 33 since you turned onto the highway. So that was a quick deflate, man.
Yeah.
It's a tear.
So you guys were right about the sound. I thought it was inside.
Yeah, that's right.
There was definitely something on the left side, outside. I think it was just a rock or what.
There's so much camping gear and people pulling
Road
trailers,
construction stuff.
Yeah, there's carrying heaters,
Tank stakes.
drivers,
Yeah, tent stake. That would.
That'd take a couple plugs, probably.
Ooh, looking out the right, Joan.
Little bridge down. Little bridge, let me across. This might be it. Looks like it comes right at it.
400. Sorry for the heartbreaking.
Who's there? Who's there? Who's there? Who's there? Who's there? Sounds like a little counter.
Very nice. Outhouse. Get the whole works here.
Yeah, an outhouse and a trailhead. Stuff. Trash can. $34.
Nice. So.
You want me and Joan to just
stretch our legs?
Well, let's go look at the thing.
Okay.
I want to give it some time and see if it changes at all.
Okay.
And maybe add a little more.
Yeah.
We'd made it, and although there was still no cell service here, there were a couple rangers, and luckily I was able to ask where the nearest town with a tire shop would be. More on that in a minute, but as we waited to see if the tire would hold up, we took some time to look for goats. Unfortunately, we just missed some fairly close up, but with a long lens I was able to catch a mother and kid across the gorge. Now back to decision time. The ranger had told me the nearest tire shop would be Browning, to the east, opposite of our plans, destination, and a known charger. We could try to go back to Kalispell, but we'd gone up and then down quite a bit on that path. If we had another problem, there was no guarantee we'd have a good place to pull over. If we went to Browning, east of the mountain range, we'd be putting our range at risk, but Kalispell was putting the tire at risk, and that seemed like a more urgent thing to deal with. The tire pressure was still holding, so we set off to Browning with me driving and second-guessing the whole way. Pulling into Browning, we found the tire shop where they said we were their 17th flat of the day, and this was just after noon. The staff was super friendly and happy to help. They didn't have the tire size, but said they could patch it. While I waited for our turn, they let me plug into a 120 outlet outside and offered a 240, but it was the wrong plug type. In the small reservation town, some people had never seen an EV in person, much less worked on them. I answered a lot of questions and got some good-natured ribbing from the staff and passers-by. Generally, like most small towns, people were curious, and it was a good chance to show off all the storage and road trip ability. While I was talking, Michael, Ellie, and Joan walked back to the grocery store on the main drag in search of lunch. By the time they got back, the car was in the service bay. They jacked it up in a safe way, but I'm regretting not ordering the jack pucks before we'd left home. Before long, they had us ready to roll again, but now the question was, which way do we roll? The morning plan had been to putz around the park for a while, then head down to Missoula, stopping in Kalispell if we needed a boost, play in the park or hit the ferry steps we'd missed the night before. Just top up a bit along the way. Now we were out in Browning with 58%, which meant getting back to Kalispell back up through the mountains would be a tough stretch. Then even if we made it back to the hotel, we'd be at zero and need to charge for over 3 hours to make it to Missoula. A shorter, more scenic route in distance, but it was inviting another problem and going to add time slow charging. Since we were already on the eastern side of the range, it made more sense to head south to the supercharger in Great Falls. It was a longer drive, but more predictable, and we could charge fast. So we hit the road, taking it easy and watching our range prediction like a hawk. The tire held, and we pulled into Great Falls with 6%, about 230 miles from Kalispell that morning. A big relief to be back on the supercharger network. Ellie stayed in the car for a nap while Michael taught Joan to be a hobo. It's Boxcar Joni! Then we went across the road to the grocery store to supplement dinner. Great Falls to Missoula is only 170 miles, but knowing we'd be crossing some mountains again, we charged up somewhere around 90% to be safe. There weren't any bailout options along our route. I forgot to take a photo of the screen before we left. A refreshed Ellie took the wheel, and we started off toward Missoula. With the stresses of the tire and charging behind us, I was able to sit in the back with Joan and enjoy the scenery on this beautiful afternoon. Ramping up here in Missoula. We made it across the range again from Great Falls after another adventurous day. We saw some cool stuff, but none of the stuff we expected to see. And didn't get to do much hiking at all. I think we got out of the car 3 times, and only one of that was for fun. But we are here and we're alive, so we will count our blessings. This was the longest day of the year, and it felt like it. The Best Western seemed fresh, modern, and clean, and just what we needed. I only charged to 72% for the night, with plans to add a little more in the morning. With the long twilight, Michael went out for a walk and found himself near a stream across the road. He followed the path for a while, and in the dark he came across a big dog, until he startled it a few feet away and it turned and climbed a tree. That was a close enough call with a bear for the evening, and he cautiously walked back to the hotel. In the morning we had a great breakfast, then walked over to the path Michael had found. We figured we could get in one more small hike before driving Ellie to the airport back in Bozeman for her afternoon flight. No bears, but we did see a deer crossing a yard and played around the small stream. Up this tree?
Yeah. We just coming out here, and I was up probably about at the edge of that bench, and yeah, he shot up the tree. Like, alright, I'm out of here.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Yeah. Pretty close to get a good look at it, but...
Eventually, reality set in and we had to get moving. A quick stop in Butte and then down to the airport. We were cruising along south of Missoula when all of a sudden we were passed by a Porsche Taycan. The same Porsche Taycan that had been in our hotel at Kalispell. We were going a pretty good pace, but they were definitely enjoying themselves in the Taycan, going at a very good clip. The Butte Supercharger isn't far off the road, but it seems like it was installed before a lot of the shopping around it closed. We plugged in, and Joan and I played in the parking lot and talked to some other road trippers. Ellie and Michael went to get food at some of the nearby fast food spots. I knew we didn't need much charge here, but I stayed plugged in and expected they'd be back soon. Suddenly, I noticed the time and realized if we didn't get moving, Ellie would miss her flight. Joan and I packed up the car and drove out near the main road, spotted them, and picked them up between stops. The lines had been long, and we all lost track of time. And of course, when you're in a hurry, that's when you take the wrong exit and cost yourself another 5 minutes. But once back on track, we made good use of Tesla's speed. We got Ellie to the airport about 2:15 for her 3:30 flight. It's a small airport, but still cutting it close. Our stop for the night was back up in Shelby, only 57 miles from where we'd been yesterday in Browning. We hit the Bozeman supercharger for some electrons and a restroom break, then we headed back north toward Helena. Since it was mostly a travel day, Michael tried to get his lost phone situation sorted out. So in Helena, we made a few stops, first Target, then Costco before charging. We ramped up to 220 pretty fast here in Helena, even after stopping at Target and Costco and kind of bumming around town a little bit. But you can see it's warm and the battery, I'm sure, is still pretty toasty. So good rate, starting out at 25%, and gonna have a little dinner here and get a good charge. The techs had given Michael the wrong number to call, so one more stop at Costco on the way out of town. Back in Great Falls, I feel like I was just here yesterday. Oh wait, we were. Another beautiful night in Great Falls. We used the restrooms in the hotel next door and fed Joan some snacks. Again, we charged up pretty high and more than what was needed because we were going out of the supercharger range. I'd used the RV lot at this hotel last year and confirmed again over the phone for this trip. But you never know. Before long, we were able to ride off into the sunset on our way to Shelby. On this lonely stretch of road on a Tuesday night, we were hardly coming across traffic going the opposite way, so I was dumbfounded to be passed by another blue Model Y. I guess they are pretty popular. Through the bugs you can see it also pulled off in Shelby, but there we parted ways. We made our way up to the Comfort Inn and got that sleepy girl to bed. With Joan asleep, I popped down to the front desk, paid $10 for a charge, and moved the car up to the RV lot. It had been a long couple days of travel, but we were in Shelby for 2 nights so we could take a breather, and I could catch up with the Well Done Foundation. Look for that in next week's video, with Yellowstone and Rocky Mountain National Parks to come as well. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching, have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.